definition, viral is not intended, you know what I mean? That you don't really intend to do viral. We got to work hard at it. Sometimes the best is that unintended. Greg, get something to add there?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on the point when you talk about social media being easy. I think if people are out there saying that social media is easy, they're probably doing it wrong.
It was a good discussion. I thought there were some great best practices, some great tips, especially from Greg Finn of 10E20. He did a great job, as did the YouTube product manager. There were some great bits about tips for igniting things on YouTube. You invest so much in creating this original, great, interesting content, and then if you can do things like maybe throw some ad dollars behind it, especially in the B2C space, where you can get that critical mass of eyeballs and get it maybe to a different demographic than just those, dig power users.
What we've done in the last year and a half is really start rethinking about how do we go to market in social media and augment our traditional go-to-market strategies and channels, email, banners, search, etc., with this new opportunity that social media presents. And what are the new skill sets and operational models that we need to have to be of interest and add value enough in social media to get traction in that channel?
You've segmented out that audience, you know where they are, and it might take a few times to reach them, but ultimately you just need to work hard to brand yourself as that person.
In fact, what we're trying to do more of is really understanding what's the message that's already in the community, and what's the vernacular that they're talking about. So in that space, what's really been key for us is listening tools. There's a whole new generation of monitoring solutions out there that will monitor blogs and forums and Twitter and tools of that nature and bring back the content to you. And if you study that, that's where you really find the nuggets of what are the terms, the phrases, the passions, the even moment-to-moment kind of transitional topics that community is interested in. Because if you optimize against that, then you find the audience is already listening for and leaning forward to that content, and then we get much better traction.
Now that was a big theme that the people on the panel were discussing. You guys differentiated between leaning forward content and leaning back content. Right. Content that people go after aggressively when they're searching, sure, and content that entertains them. Has Cisco experimented with this sort of YouTube entertainment lean back style?
We have, and I think we've had some successes. Some of it sort of serendipitous, and some of it sort of purpose-built. One of the things we're still kind of connecting the dots on is for the leaning back content, the stuff that's kind of entertaining or maybe a little bit off-brand. How do we calibrate the success of that? And typically what we'll see is those kind of more entertaining and to some people kind of frivolous or interesting visually, but not necessarily telling a product story kind of vignettes. Are we really getting brand performance out of that? Certainly we're getting our brand in front of people. We're driving traffic. We're driving views. Now we're trying to sharpen our pencil about what kind of business performance is that turning into. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, for those kind of experiences right now, we're satisfied with generating site traffic and frankly just building our skill set about what is interesting to the audience.
I think the key to all of it is adding value, having great content, and being consistent with it.
Some of the really diehard, like you said, leaning forward, people are looking for answers. They start to bubble up with like, where's the beef kind of questions as the content gets too far to the left, too frivolous, right? So yes, absolutely, we start informing try to get the educational content to be a little bit more engaging, try to get the engaging stuff to be a little bit more educational, and try to figure out where we meet in the middle without becoming disinteresting.
There's always that time cost to anything you're doing. So even if it's free from the perspective of it doesn't cost any money to have this page or this video, the time cost and the time spent to build up that community and that following to the point where you're going to have a valuable digital asset is certainly something that has a large cost associated with it. Cost is not always money.
Back in, I say the old days, but what, like a year and a half ago?
Last month.
Yeah. People thought social media was just something you could that you could dump your existing content into. But it's not free, is it? It's something that you've got to invest a lot of time and, frankly, money into.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of what my team does is we're having to build a whole new marketing practice. Mm-hmm. And I think not just us at Cisco, but this whole industry is having to build a whole new marketing discipline and expertise to understand, how does this integrate with and change the way we currently go to market, and what are the new rules of the road, what are the policies, what are the processes, what are the tools engines, what are the metrics that are now in play around this. And just as interesting, what we're finding is that each one of the traditional go-to-market engines like advertising and demand generation and events is finding that social media means that they've had to change their tools and their go-to-market strategies and the approaches they're taking because they're augmenting now their traditional tactics with social tactics in each one of those environments. So yeah, it's a brand new space, and we're learning a ton. We're trying to write down the stuff that seems to be working and make sure to learn from our failures as well.